This question is for Bank of America. You mentioned the affinity groups. So how do you get the information that they come up with, and do you use the information that they share?
We do. There's most of the affinity groups, especially at the national level, have a pretty structured approach to their agendas that they build, and many learning team members are actually part of those affinity groups. So the specific connection is between the affinity group and HR, the generalists. And then if there's any learning requirements that come out of that, that does feed over into the learning team. So we take that and try to make sure that we're meeting those needs. There may be things that are consistent across affinity groups that we could put in place, or something that we've done with the business that we could use. But yeah, we make those connections there.
So with change being constant, how do you create training that will be utilized beyond today's fire? And looking back a year, you've invested development time, materials, all of this cost, all of this, and you look in a year from now or 2 years from now, it's no longer being utilized and you just have a closet full of archived stuff? Or is that just a part of the model that you're gonna just build stuff and it's not gonna be leveraged after today's fire?
I think there's some things, when you think about leadership training, leadership principles really never change, right? What makes a good leader? So there's foundational things that aren't going to change. I think where the change is the change that's happening in the business. So I think our training from a corporate standpoint, we don't end up putting a lot of that in the closet and not using it again. We may refresh it because a lot of that is just basic leadership principles. Now, the way we present it could be differently. So I think in some of the technical training groups that can happen more often as we phase out systems or products or processes, that sort of thing. But I think the training principles stay the same.
What are your personal development plans for 2014? What are the things you're individually working on for next year?
My personal development plan for this coming year is really centered around my team, is helping us be aligned, and I got to get myself aligned first if I want them to be aligned. So I'm hoping that over this next year that my team and I together will be sharing in a very intentional way what we're learning. My own development over this next year is to deepen my coaching expertise. That's something that I am passionate about, I love doing. I want to do more of it, and I think it provides insight into what's going on, but also opportunity inside the organization to address things, have conversations with people that I wouldn't normally have otherwise.
I also actually teach some of our new supervisor training, and so I want to continue doing that. And the reason I do that is because I want to learn what's going out in the business. So I can sit in my corporate office and not really hear a lot, but when you get out there with the new supervisors, that's where you really learn. So I want to continue learning from those folks. And I pick up so many things on how we can do better. So my personal development for 2014 is really to spend more time with our employees and learn from them, really learn what's going on and try to make a difference.
So we got to figure out how to get to these folks who are on the front lines, who have a lot coming at them in much more simple, direct, easy to access ways.
My question is, how strongly is customer need incorporated into your reason why for learning and development, both on the consumer side and the business side?
What we're trying to teach our employees in terms of our engagement model is how to hear those customer stories and how to help them through whatever they need help with, which is why they're shopping at our stores. That in listening to their stories and understanding helps generate loyalty and helps them come back to Lowe's. In terms of our internal customers, we want to help people love where they work. So in a way that they want to come to work every day, they want to make a significant contribution, and they want to make a meaningful difference. And so it's our job as learning professionals to help create a capable and competent workforce that's both confident and competent to perform in at their peak in their role.
So one of the things that I try and get my team to do, and others across the organization, and new managers, and particularly those at the mid-level, is go listen in at the phone center. You want to understand what this business is about? Listen to why customers call us, and you get a totally different perspective. And I think that's something that as learning professionals, we should be doing all the time, trying to find those opportunities so that we can hear what our ultimate outside external customer wants. It really shapes the way we think about how we deliver services and what we should really be focusing on.
We found there's a need, there's process training, there's technical training, but we also need customer treatment training, right? How do you, when you get that call, how do you deal with someone? I mean, we've had situations where people talk about being suicidal because they've lost their home and their families are being impacted. I mean, how do you treat a $10 an hour customer service rep? How to deal with that? You're really starting to get into the more human aspect of people and their development, and how do you train them to just operate in an environment that's very challenging. So yeah, I think you're seeing, those are the kinds of things you're seeing as it relates to how do we treat customers. And I expect that there are other, maybe not to that degree, but I think that's something that many of us in the learning profession are going to have to come deal with.
We're educating our customers about the value of electricity and that it's there, just by flipping the switch. You may not see us all the time, but we're always there. Internally, I liked what Lisa talked about in terms of the work environment. We spend more time at work than we do anywhere else. Is that true? Yes. Yeah. So my philosophy is that we spend so much time here that you ought to have a good time while you're here and produce those results. So that's the type of environment that we try to create. And at Duke, we're actually now rolling out our new performance culture. So we defined that earlier this year. After our merger, we surveyed the top 400 leaders in the company to identify what do we need to work on. So some of the things that came out of that was being more collaborative, building trust, being accountable. It's all the things that we've talked about today. But if you think about all the time that you spend at work and with you have your family at home, but really you have a work family too. So you ought to have a good time while you're here, and that's the type of environment that we try to promote in learning and development.
Well, we've run out of time, and I want to thank our panelists. Sit tight. I think Scott Sucker wants to make some closing comments.